Okay, we're rolling. All right. Ryan Chute, are you ready to go today?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me play the intro.
I'm David C. Barnett, and you're tuned in to Small Business and Deal Making, the podcast, YouTube channel, and blog where I talk about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium sized businesses while controlling risk. So, if you're looking to take control of your future through buying a business one day, or if you already own a business and you're looking to grow or exit, you've come to the right place. I talk about interesting things, I talk to interesting people, and I answer your questions every week right here. So be sure to hit like and be sure to hit subscribe, and let's get to it. Are you a small business owner that's thinking about exiting your business now or in the next few years? My team and I are here to help with our unique zero commission program that we've been using since 2016. We can show you what your business is worth, prepare the package you'll need before you meet your first buyer, even run a confidential online advertising program for you just like business brokers do. And we'll coach you through the whole process, or you can hire us to manage it all for you, including coordinating your whole sell-side deal team. Head over to howtosellmyownbusiness.com to learn about how my team and I can help you get ready by watching a series of videos we prepared that explain each step in detail. And if you're ready or just curious to learn more, reach out to us and we'll get you started or schedule a call to answer your questions. I look forward to meeting you and learning more about your business.
All right, we're joined here today with home service business marketing expert Ryan Chute. How are you doing today, Ryan?
I'm great, David. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I want to start off by getting a little bit of your background for people that don't know you already. Can you tell us a little bit about your career in business and how you came into the world of advertising and marketing?
Yeah, look, I grew up in the gulags of retail. My family owned a furniture store. My grandfather, then father and mother, and ran that for many years. I decided to branch off into the corporate world and do the same thing, but out of underneath the shadow of my family. And at that point, basically, we were looking at selling the family business. So that business got sold, and I moved into the automotive space. Throughout that time, I was able to travel around the world and actually become an international trainer. That led me to the opportunity to run the Australasia market, where we did marketing and sales events for the manufacturers of automotive businesses. And that gave me a really new kind of perspective on what was possible and what I might be able to do things I enjoy. Well, Australasia came to an end as visas run out and all those things. And I had been reading the Monday Morning Memo at mondaymorningmemo.com, strangely enough.
Mhm.
And Roy Williams has been writing this memo for 35 years. He's never missed a Monday in 35 years. And it came from the books, the three trilogies that he has, Wizard of Ads. And basically, he in that memo, he had said, well, I'm thinking about stepping back and not going to do a thing. And I'm teaching at this academy called the Wizard Academy in Austin, Texas. And I said, well, I got to go see this guy. If he's going to be kind of on the outskirts, I need to see him in real life. So I went, and it changed my life. It was astoundingly transformational for me. I'd grown up transactional. I'd grown up grinding it out every single day in business, running business, being a salesperson in business. And I thought I really kind of knew what I was talking about and knew what I was doing. I'd made a lot of money. I'd made a lot of money, many billions of dollars for people internationally. And I realized, I'm probably got something to learn here. And so I spent a lot of time for the next 2 years going back to classes, getting to know Roy, and eventually became a Wizard of Ads partner from his invitation when we talked one day. And he said, look, you certainly understand and have something here that I believe could add a lot to the partnership. It's not as a writer, I'm not a copywriter. But as a strategist, there's a lot of value that can be brought to the table here. So
Before you move any further, can you tell me what you mean by transactional?
Yeah. Look, there's Life is filled with duality. We love to kind of segment it up into a whole bunch of extra bits that are unnecessarily specific. It really comes down to survival and thriving. It comes down to transactional and relational, fixed mindsets, growth mindsets, creative mindsets, abundant mindsets versus hoarding mindsets.
Mhm.
Life is duality, and it's a spectrum, not a not an infinite point, one or the other. It's you're somewhere on the spectrum in a variety of different ways at a variety of different times. And as a whole, you kind of embody a certain amount. Well, I grew up in a world of retail, right? It was sales and discounts and offers. It was like getting to the lowest price. It was negotiation. It was all of those things that you think make a lot more difference than they actually do when you start to realize,
Trying to instigate that instantaneous decision someone might have to say yes to a purchase,
right.
so you can get that cash flow versus focusing on creating, like a relationship between the person and the business?
Yeah, look, Dave, you're right on the edge of it of coaxing or convincing someone versus saying something so persuasive that they're certain to do it. Um, Recognizing value in a different way, and not just trying to manufacture or shove value into an equation that doesn't belong there. Um,
Mm.
we spend so much time trying to convince people all of these things on cars matter and are worth something and all this other stuff, when what really matters to the customer is what they care about, and we should spend more time figuring that out and then building a proposition that they can't say no to. And when you start to abandon yourself and really just start thinking about how I can do this right for other people, what can I compromise in myself to give value to them, be it the product specific or be it some other term or condition that affords them to say yes easier. You start to see a different relationship. And then when you start that relationship in advertising millions of miles before they need your thing, well, the whole conversation's a lot different. If I'm going up against you as a contender in a sales transaction, it's a lot different than me going up against a person that I already walked into feeling a sentiment of positivity with, a sense of
Right.
empathy, a sense of competence before the exchange even starts.
Okay. So you brought a couple samples of your work with you, and we're going to play some of those today. But before we get into that and start specifically talking about the process that you employ in trying to create a strategy for a home services brand, can you kind of give me a rundown of what you think are some of the biggest mistakes that home service companies do when they're thinking or about advertising or creating some kind of marketing or ad campaign?
Yeah, almost 100% of the time, it starts with making the decision around the channel that you're going to use to deliver your message, rather than strategically what you're able to deliver and the message that should go along with that. That's not just cute and clever, which has short shelf life, but has legs on it. It has a story arc, a narrative arc, a character arc, where we can get people invested in tuning in to, God forbid, a radio ad or a television ad or a social media post or a little campaign. There's this brilliant little company right now that is a coffee shop, and it basically just does hilarious little skits of things that are happening at the coffee shop, and it's totally scripted. It's like a literal little mini TV series show, and they run it as a social show on social medias, and you have to tune in. You see this little 3-minute exchange of some crazy thing that the customer is asking for and how they kind of deal with it in their own kind of weird or offhandedly humored kind of way. Well, that's gotten them fame and renowned all over the world, and has done wonders for their show. When you don't have access to a huge TV budget or any of those things, get interesting with something that people can consistently rely on tuning into and enjoying, because entertainment is the currency of a too busy public.
Okay, so you're starting to veer into, what people should be doing. I knew I was going to be asking you the question about the mistakes people make, and so I've been paying
Yeah.
attention locally over the last little while. And I was on the highway the other day and I drove past a billboard which had the name of a roofing company and a logo that my mother would be afraid of. And
Hmm.
it simply said free estimates and a phone number.
Hmm.
And you know, I tuned into the radio the other day and I heard an ad from another roofing company who was promising that you know, they were expert at what they did and they offered free estimates and you should call right now because they're booking for the spring. And I was listening to those and I was just thinking to myself, I the ad isn't even over and I can't even remember the name of the company.
That's right.
And what on earth are they, you know, hoping to get from this? Like it's almost like they feel like I need to get my name out there. I need to advertise in some way. And so then they, I don't know, maybe a salesperson knocked on their door and they bought some ads.
Well, very often it's the salesperson who knocks on their door, and let's all agree that there is going to be 20,000 digital marketers for every Wizard of Ads partner, because any idiot with a you know, a course that they took on Upwork, you know, or a digital marketer or something is now a digital marketer and are, you know, running their ads and doing their thing and convincing you that their nonsense is going to be better than everyone else's, completely tone deaf to what the reality of the world is. I interacted with 3 of them this week, and I was embarrassed for them. It's tragic how bad it is. Literally the verbatim pitch from 3. All promising the world. Now, if your roofing company was called Free Estimates, they've done a brilliant job, because the only thing that they left in the sentiment was free estimates. So freeestimates.com, and you're a roofing company, you win, right? It's like, but therein lies the rub, right? Like when you are attaching a message to an untethered sentiment, all you've done is advertise for the whole world. Stop wasting your money.
So in essence, what you're saying is all you're doing is reminding people if they need a roof that maybe I should start shopping around for a roof.
Right.
It,
That
you
there's no
haven't
reason
created
to
any
shop.
kind of reason to call them.
Exactly.
You just,
Exactly.
yeah.
And why would they? Like if you were a customer, like why would you call? You're not going to. You might accidentally call them when you get the list of 4,000 roofers in your city and you happen to pick that random one, like a roulette wheel, landing on their number, you know, and calling them. But they've just wasted their money. It's an astounding, embarrassingly bad waste of money, and there's better ways to do it. And until you anchor a feeling to your brand specific, not free estimates. Free estimates is table stakes. Everyone's going to give a free estimate in the world. If you say it, you've already failed in your business. That's not what got them there, right? You just accidentally happened to get them. If instead
you've already mentioned that we should be thinking more about a relationship, a story, something that people could become invested in,
bonded
can
to.
bonded to. Can you give us an idea of how that, you know, sort of ties in with the brand itself? Like, because all of this is related, right? What you call the business is part of the strategy of how you intend to create that relationship with the public.
That's it. So this leads us beautifully, David, into the first ad that we're talking about, Drain Magic. Now, Drain Magic was called East Coast Trenchless, and they're doing, you know, 5 figures, mid 5 figures every month in revenue. They were looking to scale disproportionately fast. They were in a marketplace of about 400,000 population, and they were hungry for growth. Now, nobody on the planet except for plumbers know what trenchless means, and so the first thing that needed to change was the name. Well, they'd gone through a process with another company, and they came up with just an embarrassing list of names that had nothing to do with what the actual strategy was. The strategy was recognizing that the reason why this company would get a phone call is because a customer saw something happening at their sewer drain. At their sewer drain, there was probably poop coming up, or gray water or something, right? Something gross, something smelly, something scary. Oh man, let me fix that. And the first people that they called was a plumber. Well, great. We call a plumber, and one of the things that this company does is help basically deliver the solution for the plumbers. So the plumber's going to get the first call. We needed to be the second call. That second opinion phone call, because now the plumber has done all of the work we needed to do ahead of time and educated them that they need to go into their yard and they needed to tear up their entire yard and dig this giant trench and just horribly destroy their entire environment from them. They're going to tie up traffic on their quiet little street for the next 7 days and have all of their neighbors hate them, and there's going to be a hole in the
Most people have seen this happen in their neighborhood if you live in a place that's, like, old enough, right? Because when these
exactly.
things start to fail after 30 or 40 years, like, you
Exactly.
start to see this orchestration occur over and over again. My
That's it.
neighborhood was built in the '50s, so I see this regularly.
This is it. And the older the neighborhood, the more it's going to happen and the scarier it is. And it's traumatizing, right? Because that lawn never looks right, and those prize-winning azaleas are gone forever, and that tree that you grew up on and your kid used to have a swing on, that's dead now, and your driveway's never going to be the same again. And it's all done by, you know, these characters that come out that don't necessarily have the best body odor or any of these other things, right? There's just this connotation, real or not, right? These are the crazy things that a customer thinks about, as they should. So we needed to pay attention to that, because the only thing that this company does is trenchless work. They basically offer 3 services, and they offer it for the same price as what the trench job is done for, but they do it trenchless and they do it in a day.
So what I think is really important here is that you're starting this whole marketing advertising program by understanding what is the customer going to do, why are they going to do it, what are their expectations, and
So
what are the outcomes they desire.
that's it.
And then you're gonna sort of create the marketing around that, but you know what you're going to call the business is going to be obviously tied into that expectation story viewpoint that the customer has.
That's it. That's it.
And so this is why Dave's Plumbing always ends up suffering.
Unless we can make Dave's Plumbing matter somehow, right?
Right.
And therein lies the challenge, the creative constraints that we have as wizards. The hardest thing in the world to market for is a purchase that no one wants to make, right? No one wants to buy trenchless repairs. No one wants to buy air conditioning. No one wants to buy a new hot water tank. That's a grudge purchase, and it only happens when something breaks, right?
Okay. So do you want me to play the ad, and we'll give people a little taste here of what you're talking about?
We'll play the ad, and then we can explain what that ad was doing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is Drain Magic 3 Yelp reviews. Let me
Hi, I'm Billy Ray from Billy Ray's Hole Digging. My customers know when you need one great big mother of a hole, ain't nobody better than you can call than Billy Ray. Let's just take a look at some of my online reviews. Here's one. Good Lord, that's the biggest hole I ever seen. I had no idea the hole was going to be that big. Well, you are quite welcome, it horrified in Hershey 69. I hope you enjoyed your hole as much as I enjoyed digging it. All right, let's see. Mystified Margaret says, did you really have to dig across the driveway through my azaleas and all the way across my front lawn? Yes, ma'am, and you are quite welcome. Thank you for that lovely review.
In the old days, if you needed to repair or replace your drain line, it meant digging a trench from your house to the street. With Drain Magic, we use advanced robotics and modern materials to remotely diagnose and repair drain lines without digging a hole. And we guarantee our work for life. Underground drains? No trench. That's Drain Magic. For a second opinion, visit drainmagic.com.
Hi, I'm Billy Ray from...
and so that's a radio ad. And
Yes.
I mean, I've heard it several times. I still smile when I hear it because of the character, right? And so I think when you were speaking earlier, you called Billy Ray an anti-hero. Is that right?
Yeah, Billy Ray is basically the anti-hero, or the foil that we're using to say something extreme that you could never say as your brand, but create a picture. As you heard, Billy Ray is screaming a little bit loud. He talks over loud because he's a little bit deaf, because that diesel engine's running pretty heavy in the background all the time, right? And he just loves digging holes. Now, we also own BillyRayHoleDigging.com and BillyRay.com and all these other little things that allow us to control that before we launch this campaign. And that's just one in a series of ads where the character changes and the story changes, and all of these things continue to evolve, not just stay cute and clever.
And what does BillyRayHoldIggin.com lead to? Did you create a website for him too, or does it just lead to Drain Magic?
Our phase 2 was that it would lead to his own website, and we would create a unique lead generation service for that. But that's in the wraps right now. It just redirects to Drain Magic right now, where as you scroll down, you'll see the Billy Ray way and the Drain Magic way, and it's just it's a before after transformational moment on the website.
Okay, so for a lot of people out there who are thinking of or who own a business in the home service space or are thinking about buying a business in the home service space, um, obviously you are using some kind of toolkit, some kind of methodology that you've learned through your Wizard of Ads work that
Yes.
lets you go in and kind of analyze and figure this stuff out. Can you talk a little bit about like the process that you go through to
Yeah.
flush these things out?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few real key things, and we're not trying to. The two things about marketing is that there's the ideas that you come up with that are implementable, and then there is the production work that needs to be done, the nuts and bolts, hands-on keyboard stuff that needs to be done to get it over the curb. The things that we want to control are two things. One, the mass media and the buy that goes behind that, because we have national buying power. We can get your deal at 27 cents on the dollar. Ultimately, that gives us, the complete and utter justification that you'd use us over anyone else, because ultimately we can spend your money better. The second part of that is that we want to control your message. So all of the words in all of the channels, first on mass media, because we need to get that right first. It's going to be heard by the most amount of people, the most often, and then to align all of those things up to the channels, the website, the truck wraps, the name of the company, the business cards, the sales copy, the CSR copy, the social media post, all of it, right? It's anything that has a word attached to it, which is basically everything we want to influence. So that's what's happened. How we do that is we have to first stop and spend time figuring you out, right? Who the heck are you as a business? What do you stand for? What do you stand against? What are you trying to achieve? What's your ambition? What's your growth aspiration? And then what's your market capable of doing, both in your immediate market and your expansionary markets? And then lastly, what is it your competition is doing, so that we can stand 600 feet above them easily by not saying the same nonsense that everyone else is saying.
And so what kind of impact, like what happened with East Coast Trenchless when they became Drain Magic and you started to run these campaigns? Like how big of a difference did it make for those guys?
Well, to say something that is disproportionate to what normally happens, in the first week, they paid for our entire fee structure, plus their entire media buy in the first 7 days of that campaign. Not what we expected, certainly not what we promised. In fact, we're going to promise the exact opposite. We're going to tell you to expect to feel a horrible amount of cash flow pain for a year, because it takes time.
You expect to have to build this relationship capital in the minds of the market.
That's right.
And you just happen to hit a whole bunch of people who have this pain right off the bat.
Well, we hit a market that was very old infrastructure with an awful lot of work being done on an awful lot of underground pipe work, and it just exploded. So within 9 months, they were hitting high six figures, and in a couple of months, 7-figure months. So they quickly became nearly $10 million company within 9 months.
Wow. From
a sub-$1 million company.
Wow. Okay. It's like tenfold or more increase just by getting this stuff right.
Yeah. Now, understand, we're just astoundingly good at what we do, and one of the ways that we are able to be astoundingly good is to partner with somebody who is astoundingly good at delivering on the things that we promise. Right. So
the execution has to be there, is what you're saying.
The partner that we had with that is world-class level partner. He is extraordinary at what he does. Yeah. And he gave us full reign creative freedom. That is such a huge benefit, because he's just brave enough to go, yeah, let's do it. We're going to crush this thing. And we'll start brand lining our channels up and promises up to the brand. The whole idea of what you saw there in the ad, just thinking of this strategically, and I'm not going to get into the deep science of it. There's a ton of stuff that we'll just leave out right now, but the fundamentals were that we recognized a pain, we exacerbated the pain through humor, and then we at that crescendo, we brought it down to the solution. So we brought a person up and down on the emotional journey, and these emotional anchors, the ability to make a person smile over it, and to hear that, and every time they hear it, they're just giving it a little laugh, and the kids in the back seat are saying, "I'm Billy Ray's from pole digging," right? And that stuff actually happens, and they show up with Drain Magic trucks, and little kids are like talking about Billy Ray and all this stuff. It's super fun, right? And it's that emotion that makes the difference. Think of it like this: every single impression that you have of your brand is a brick, just a nice normal brick. It's either truck, it's a brick, billboard, brick, social media post, brick, on Google, brick, radio ad, brick. And you have this big pile of bricks back in the long-term memory. We kind of know it's there. It's just a pile of bricks. No one's really paying attention to a pile of bricks. But when you attach emotion to it, what we've brought into the equation is the mortar. And every single time a brick comes in with mortar, we slap some mortar down and we put a brick on and we start building a house. Now, if you don't have any emotion, you have no mortar. If you have no mortar, you have no house. You just have a stack of bricks in the back of the brain that no one cares about. Okay. And that's the foundational difference. And that's how you earn more money. That's why they're able to, as Drain Magic, to do a job in a day for the same revenue as a job that took 3 days at a disproportionately higher profit margin, because we were selling convenience and the customer trusted it would go away because we recognized it so well. And that's exactly what happened.
Are you able to know if there are people in that market who've been listening to these, entertaining commercials, if they suddenly need this service, do you think there's a disproportionate number of those people who just would not necessarily shop around? They're like, oh, I know who to call, and they just want to do business with Drain Magic? Is that the whole idea?
That is exactly what happens. Yeah.
Okay.
The conversions rates are disproportionately above average.
So we listened to the radio ad and you talked a little bit about their webpage. What other media channels were part of this particular campaign? And I guess I would like to know, why did you choose specific media channels for the advertising?
Yeah, well, I mean, you start with the basics. So the media channels for us started off with the name of the company, because that had to change from East Coast Trenchless. That was tragedy. And the names that the naming company had come up with were tragic. So we named it properly. And we named it based off the strategy then story. We didn't name it off of like, here's some cute ideas. And that's the fundamental difference. And then we did the creative brief and had the trucks wrapped by a truck wrap company. That's common and popular in the marketplace, and they did a fantastic job. Those were obviously basic channels. We did billboards, and the billboards basically just reinforced the message. We would just use a single line out of it, and then we used no social media. Our website for the first 3 months was basically just a postcard. It was just the logo, a form fill, and a phone number. There was literally 3 things on that. The page didn't even move. And we were able to get up to high 6 figures a month with that. Like, to say that a website matters is arguable when you actually have brand that stands behind it. Most things on websites are just there to propagate some sort of justification for the digital marketer to get more money from you. There is some strategic reasons why you would do certain things, but I can tell you, in the high level companies that we work with, most of their websites are astoundingly simple. Very few pages. They have done some specific township work where they've gone in and done some SEO work on township stuff, but it's not something that you show up on the website and go find. It's actually just a lander that's helping with pay-per-click and some organic SEO. But those aren't part of the website as a whole, and that's when they're bigger, right? When they have the money to invest in that build out of things. So website's an important channel, but it's also a channel that gets oversold and overbaked in a lot of ways that just aren't necessary, because we've proven over and over and over again that a lot of the things that are said are fundamentally nonsense, because we have proof of ones that don't do that. Social media didn't exist. So there was no social medias, and they had their directories and Google pay-per-click. Most of their business came through the branded campaign, which was 10 times less.
Did you say they did have pay-per-click on Google?
Pay-per-click, LSA. LSA was their number one driver, quickly, and pay-per-click, we basically just invested our major bulk of money in the brand itself. So things like Billy Ray, Drain Magic, and those types of things were the ones that drove.
So people Googling things that they might have remembered from the radio ad, trying to find a contact number. Okay.
Yep.
So I happen to be a regular listener of a podcast that's hosted by some home service entrepreneurs, and they talk a lot about the different aspects of running a home service business.
Yep.
And a lot of their talk about sales and marketing is around Google My Business and LSA advertising. And it really comes across to me as someone who is kind of familiar with how those businesses work and how they make money. And, I've worked with a lot of those clients over the years in helping them do a deal with one of those businesses, but I've not been an operator. But it really seems to me like almost how back in my Yellow Page days, I knew that the plumber that had the biggest, fanciest, best looking ad in the Yellow Pages was probably going to get the most calls. And it just seems like Google has just kind of stepped into that role. And a lot of these people are really dependent on it.
Yeah, Google is Yellow Pages. There are some areas where Yellow Pages continue to generate a return on investment that's justifiable. 90% of the country, it's not that case. It's Google. Google has seen a 10% shift away from them with generative search, ChatGPT search, and Bing. Picking up, some of that slack as evolutions have happened over the last couple of years with AI. So we are paying attention to search deeply at every level at Wizard of Ads, but we're also recognizing that, I'm about to do a testimonial out in Houston, Texas, in the next couple of weeks with a client who I had to spend a lot of time convincing just to put their branded campaign on pay-per-click. They have LSA. They have not run pay-per-click for 2 years. They went from $6 million when they started with us. 2 years later, they're at $13.8 million. They've never had more profit in their lives, and they did two things.
So when you say they only do pay-per-click on their branded, you're saying don't bid on terms like plumber in Houston, but rather Drain Magic in Houston, or whatever your brand is in Houston, like. Because you don't want to compete with all the other people willing to bid $6 for a call for plumbers. You just want to make sure that you're discoverable by the people looking for you.
Yeah. So that was their choice to make, and that's what they did. We said, like, you should probably have a baseline of that, but it's up to you where you want to spend your dollars. And they said, you know what, we're just sick and tired of paying Google the extortionary prices that they're charging, and being at their whim and whimsy of lead flow. We're going to do it our own way. And they did, and they have been doing it for a few years. They were spending an outrageous amount of money before us. They've dropped that by over half, and raised their amount. My guess is that they're about a 6% marketing budget, advertising in Houston, using radio and direct mailer. Anything that comes in through LSA, Google Business Profile, or branded campaign is a fraction of the cost of what it would be to run a non-branded campaign. And people who are coming in want to deal with them, right? They're looking to deal with this company. And there's two reasons why. Reason number one is they went looking for them, found them, and clicked on them. Number two is they didn't go looking for them. They were undecided buyer, or they're frustrated with their current guy, or whatever, and they go looking for a plumber, or it's an emergency and they're just not thinking, just like, get this thing done. And they go looking, and then they go, oh, those guys, I remember those guys because of aided recall from radio or direct mail. And they absolutely crush it. So from a profitability standpoint, highly profitable business in Houston, Texas, that's more than doubled their business in 2 years, with healthy margins along the way, and has every intent on crushing 22 million this year. And I have no doubt that they're going to do it. And we didn't add a nickel to their advertising budget this year, not one penny.
How big of a um, um, I guess, distraction is it for people to become involved in sort of the tactical decisions about marketing and advertising? Like I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, we need to drum up sales, so we're going to try TikTok." Like they just, people just kind of grasping at what they think the new platform is, or what they think
Yeah,
the new avenue of communication is. Um,
yeah.
it sounds like all of those decisions need to come well after all of this other stuff that you've talked about has been crafted.
The channel is quite literally the last thing that you deal with. And I can promise you that unless you're at the peripheral edges of your budgets on other places, that anything that is a fringe solution like TikTok or Facebook or um, Yelp, all of these are anybody who's running our campaigns in earnest. Does not spend a penny on Yelp, does not spend a penny on Angie's List or Home Advisor or any of these other low-level aggregator services that are overcharging you for using your own name to get you your own lead to sell it back to you and 10 of your competitors at the same time. It's just these people are extortionists. They're criminals. I don't like them. I don't believe in them. They shouldn't be allowed on the internet. Their algorithms are playing very, very deceptive games. They've been sued for it publicly. This isn't like news. This isn't. I'm not like revealing something here. This is all public information. So
you sound kind of like some of the restaurateurs I talk with from time to time about these delivery services, these delivery apps, because
the delivery apps have gotten disgusting. Yeah, there's no reason in the world why the delivery app should be collecting the kind of revenues that they're collecting.
I've spoken to so many of these restaurant owners who will be like, "Oh, I'm going to get incremental revenue by signing up with this app," and then all of a sudden, what they realize is, "Oh my God, my existing customer base has now moved over there." And I've just handed 20% of my revenue to this other company
Yeah,
that I used to have before, and now these guys somehow get it. What you're saying kind of reminds me of that. You have another ad that you sent in for a rug dealer business. Should we play that one, and then we can have a chat about what kind of went into this campaign?
totally. Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic.
All right, let's have a listen.
I got busted. I got busted dealing rugs. I'm Matt from Call Dad AC and Heating, and when I was in high school, I used to deal rugs, every size and style. Persians were the biggest seller. Did so well, I started buying in bulk and needed to rent a storage locker. They only accepted credit cards, and I was underage, so I rented under my dad's name and snuck his credit card. Month 1 went great, but month 2, they called my dad for back payment. Dad paid the bill, and I paid my dad. Then he talked to me about responsibility. Now, Call Dad AC and Heating is responsible to you. So, I call that a lesson learned.
When air inside your home is iffy, Dad will be there in a jiffy. Dad will leave you feeling spiffy. Call Dad. All you gotta do is call Dad.com. License number 34907.
I got busted.
So that's cute, right? Like when I saw the title of the ad, I thought it was going to be for a business that sold drugs. Obviously, it's not. It gets into one of these stories that you kind of alluded to. Can you give us the sort of the background of how, this one was built out?
Yeah, so everyone thinks that their ads have to tell every customer what they do and how they do it and all the things they sell and all the wonderful ways that they sell it, like every other company that does the exact same things, and they can literally just interchange the name. There is no way in the world that anyone can ever run that ad and ever be mistaken for that kind of company, right? Call Dad owns that. Now, so this was an interesting one. That we love these guys. Like my friend Ken Goodrich introduced Matt Posda to me, and we got along famously right from the get-go. Matt's just a true gentleman and an astoundingly good businessman. And he had brought together a brilliant team of operators. He had when he approached me was just over 10 million and doing great. He had 8 locations, and they were all just smaller locations, excuse me, in the Carolinas. And he was looking at how do we gel this whole thing together and do the thing and really kind of light this thing up. Well, we look at it and we go, so we all went out there for the day and we're spending time with them. And the two guys that are in the room, both named Matt, and one of the guys that we have, our creative, his name was Matt. So we had like the council of Matts there, and it just kind of get onto this whole rip of dad stuff. Like everything about these guys were dads. Like they adored their families. The thing they were doing this for was their families. Their staff was like that. They're just surrounded by good, wholesome family people. And they kept like the stories about their kids and the stories, that Matt on Sundays would always have like the dad joke contest at the dinner table where the best dad joke wins. And like all of this just super fun, absolutely endearing stuff. And of course, Matt's been an entrepreneurial type, as you can tell from that ad. That was a true story, right? So no one can have his true story. So we
So
leveraged it.
so were the 8 locations called Call Dad?
No,
Or was that part of the evolution that came in with the program?
yeah. So by the time we'd finished lunch, I take my writing team with me, and I say we've got to change the name, and this is going to be the name. And I said Call Dad Air, and as the domain name. And I'd already looked it up at lunch, and I'm like, calldadair.com is available. So I bought that right away so that we'd be able to transfer that over to them. And I said, we're gonna hit them with this. And we don't normally do that, but it was just apparent that this was the path for us. Like sometimes the road just shows itself. And we spent the afternoon saying, here's what we think, and here's how we think we're going to land this. And then we just spent, they kind of quickly agreed and stepped into that space. And we went on a beautiful rip of all the fun stuff and creative stories. And we just kept on digging into dad stories, and they just collected a whole bunch of really great stuff that they could use for the front end of the campaign. We then step away and we say, we're going to restructure your website. We're going to get you new truck wraps, logos, color palettes, the whole bit. So we redid everything for them actually in-house with our teams. We created new truck wraps for them. Like we did literally everything in this particular campaign, and then launched them. And it was an outrageous success. The reception of it was absolutely top notch, over the top, brilliant. It was astounding how powerful it was. And ultimately, it was powerful because, again, we were paired with absolutely astoundingly good operators who delivered on the promises and actually stood for the thing. They leaned into it on social media and really just started celebrating the mums and dads of life. And the reason why Call Dad matters is because when you're in a pinch at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're, Susan, who's 18 years old, and you need something, who do you call? You call your dad. He's the one you trust. And that anchor worked so well. And this is from a guy who's an investment banker. Matt posed as an investment banker. He's got tons and tons of money. He's an astoundingly wealthy human being, and he's the one on the radio ads, and we see this consistently. We have billionaires who do our TV ads for their companies, right? Like it's the ego is not there. They're there to represent and show. And where this really evolved to, David, was the most exciting part, was how much it changed the inside culture of their business. Because your inside brand, your brand is your culture. And by George, he told us that after the first year. We've been with them 2 years, and they're on a hard charge now to $60 million. And I'm convinced that they're going to be achieving that because they put a brilliant operation together, and they have a unique situation in market that they're able to achieve what they are targeting.
I was reading an article or something from an HR person that was talking a little bit about marketing and branding with respect to the impact it could have on prospective employees in the marketplace. Like, if people are out looking for a job, in this case, tradespeople, right, who are plumbers, where do they want to work? I mean, just like the general public, these individuals are going to have a different kind of feeling or sentimentality towards one company or another, based in part on things like the marketing, right?
Right.
Like what kind of organization is it? and I can definitely see how this would help with recruiting.
When you read the book from the Arbinger Institute called Leadership and Self-Deception, one of the things that it teaches you in that book is that one of the biggest reasons why you get dissension in your ranks is because of self-betrayal. When people don't believe that they're standing for what's right, they won't do it, or they won't be behind it and do the things that you need done. So if you're going to be a part of something that stands for something bigger and represents something, and it feels good, and then the things that we're telling you do through our policy, procedure, and management tolerance and expectation are the same as what we're saying in our ads and what we represent as an ideal, that translates. Your culture is 100% your brand. I won't say 100%. Your culture is 100% your brand, in so much as that your culture is what affects your buying experience, and your buying experience and your culture are the things that we talk about in your advertising. Not by saying our culture's like this, but by saying I'm a rug dealer. I got busted, right? And the humor that comes from that says I was entrepreneurial and thinking outside the box, but I was also kind of outside the lines. And I just want you to know that I'll have your best interest at heart. And that sentiment was there, right down to the campy jingle that we do. Campy on purpose to have that old 50s-ish kind of like show tuney kind of feel to it, so that people want.
Oh, it's like the Leave It to Beaver character got into trouble doing something. Right?
Exactly. We're creating an emotional environment of endearment, of safety, of good, wholesome family humor in every element of what we're baking into that campaign. And it's true to the business owners. They live this life, they believe this life, and that's what makes it so powerful, is that it's authentic.
So you mentioned earlier briefly AI, and how AI is kind of growing and kind of
Yeah.
taking the place of search a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you think AI is going to be important with respect to marketing for businesses like these?
Yeah, AI is absolutely essential. Anybody who's not going to use AI is going to get behind, but not necessarily for all the things that you think you're going to use it for. AI is going to be incredibly good at parsing data, as far as understanding how you're performing, whether you're meeting or exceeding expectation, or whether or not you have some space to improve. AI is going to be incredibly useful in marketing, to understand where the true value is coming from in various channels. But it's also going to be a huge distraction. It's going to be a huge distraction because it's going to tell you things that you think mean something that actually don't, right? One of the biggest mistakes that businesses make is that they look at it and go, oh, we get all of our business from Google, or from LSA, or from SEO, or from. And that's all nonsense. If all you have is that, then yes. But the reality of it is that they've been touched by your brand in a variety of different ways, from your truck wraps to your technicians to your radio ads to your social media posts to people in marketplace who've dealt with you and have an impression about you and have said something, to your Google reviews. All of those things are going to have an effect. Now, some of them have an effect, and some of them basically are just happening at the last touch, and you just happen to get the phone call that day.
I was about to bring this up because back, I spent 7 years with the Yellow Pages, and one of the promises that the internet brought was this attribution promise, where because of tracking links and everything, that everyone would be able to know where they were best, where they had made the proper investment in advertising.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember I used to meet with people, business owners, and they would say, I'm not going to advertise in the Yellow Pages this year because I surveyed my clients and 80% of them are coming because of newspaper and radio ads.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you asking them?
Well, if I can tell you that 100% of the people who surveyed their clients, and 80% of them said that, are 100% wrong in where they think that their leads are coming from.
Well, we would, they would say, well, we asked them where they heard about us, and I would say, and did you ask them where they got the phone number before calling?
Yeah.
And people would be like, no. And then I would say, do that for the next 2 weeks and I'll come back. And what they would discover is that, yeah, just your point, people would hear radio ads, they would see newspaper ads, and then they would end up looking them up in the phone book, right?
Right.
To your point about how it's this multi-touch kind of world that you create where people bump into you many times or hear word of mouth or all
That's
kinds of
right.
different things happen. And
Well,
it all
and
kind of funnels people in one direction.
it funnels people to the direction of the spot where they touch you last. This is what we call the last touch attribution lie. Last touch attribution lie is perpetuated by the last touch people to justify you giving them more money, right? And if you're foolish enough to believe in that, then spend all your money in Google and let me know how you make out. At the end of the day, there is not one of our clients who's actually doing the thing that we've asked them to do, because some of them don't listen to us, even if we do tell them, who are seeing disproportionately lower marketing budgets in usually about the third year. But it depends on how competitive your market is, and how many other companies around you have really good branding as well versus big brands, right? Because big brands have a momentum, but you're not going to win your way with Google. And if you think you are, bless you, good luck. If you're not bankrupt by the time you realize that you need to play a different game, come see me and we'll show you a different path.
Yeah, because these competitive, sort of commodity categories, the cost per click is getting incredible, isn't it?
Well, and this is it. I mean, I don't look at HVAC and plumbing as a commodity category, right? It has not been commoditized, but people love to commoditize themselves. It's a self-inflicted wound when you put out a, $600 or $1,000 hot water tank replacement. Yeah, $6,000, right? That's desperation from fly-by-night companies. In some cases, you have desperation right now from huge PE companies who are gushing money and gushing at top quality staff. They're just squirting all of this talent and money out of their coffers, and they're literally willing to sell you anything for any price just to get some numbers on the board to justify their existence to their investors. And that's a way, right? I guess, right? But they're not going to be the long-term play. I've yet to see a private equity group that's looking to stay in market and serve the client base, and treat their communities right and treat their employees right. If they exist, I'd love to meet.
It's largely a flipping model. I mean, there's a very few number of sort of like permanent investment type.
Right.
I think they're more they really fall into that family office category. But
that's and here's why that matters. It matters because HVAC, plumbing, and electric are relational companies that require long-term thinking to be successful at the highest levels. They're better suited for the transactional companies like roofing, where basically you've got a whole bunch of people who either go into it with good intent or go into it with ill intent and are looking to make the transaction and get out. That's great for short-term thinking. Go buy up the roofing companies of the world and do what you can to schlep a bunch of roofs transactionally, but leave the HVAC, plumbing, and electric world alone. If you're trying to, as a business owner, you're looking at it and going, well, I really want to take care of my family and take care of my community. I don't want to have to move away from my community because I'm so embarrassed with what my private equity company is doing. And look, there's plenty of examples of companies that do a good job and private equity companies that are very ethical. I just haven't met a whole lot of them. I've met an awful lot of people who have told me about the tragedies of life and the frustrations that they've had to deal with in taking advantage of the community and coworkers that they cared so much for to build this business up to the level that it was, with a culture that wasn't summarily disassembled and ripped apart. And look, I get it. Sometimes your business has to evolve past the people that got you there aren't necessarily going to be the people that get you the next spot, but there is a empathetic way of handling that.
Yeah, listen, I hear tons of stories right exactly along the lines that you're talking about.
in
So so let's wind this towards, what it's like for people to work with you.
mm,
Like if somebody's listening to this today and says, "Oh, I'd love to talk to Ryan about how I could change from being Dave's Plumbing to being something more memorable." What does the conversation look like? I mean, it sounds expensive. Like, what should people be thinking when they hear about a service like yours?
well, it does sound expensive, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's advertising is the tax you pay for being unremarkable, and ultimately, until you're remarkable, you're going to pay that tax, and you're going to pay double tax on the transactions that you need to have to keep the blood flowing until such time as your brand over overrides that and starts taking that pain away, right? The medication starts working, as it were, right? And you're going for the cure, not just trying to band-aid the symptom. Um, so that, yeah, there is a bit of a ride there, but in the first year of a aggressively growing company, including our fees, invest 12% in your marketing budget. In the second year, invest 10%, and you'll be just fine. The same 10% that you were going to spend anyway, floundering around doing a bunch of nonsense that didn't work, right? Do it with a much more targeted strategic plan, and then align all of the channels. As year two comes along, more of those channels will get aligned. And now you have a clear path to profitable growth, as long as your operation can continue to keep up with it. So 12% of marketing budget isn't outrageous. And I'm not saying 12% of what you're making right now. I'm saying 12% of where you're going, right? That's what
Mm.
that's what a real marketing budget is. And you can certainly adjust it, but you want to have a baseline in there. And I'm being super generic right now. Like I've started off with clients where we started off at 6%, including our fees. Every situation is different. We've also had companies who've had like, no, we're going to invest in this. We're going to change our brand and truck wraps and everything else, and we're going to go extra and do this thing. And there's going to be a whole bunch where, we had a client just started up the first of this year, and they said, should we change our name? I said, no, we can absolutely keep your name. Your name's not broken. And then the name that they were thinking about changing it to was actually terrible, and it would have not worked. But the name that they had was perfectly fine. We just needed to mean something to somebody. Well, we made it mean something to somebody, and when we did, they were able to see the movement that they needed to justify the expense. But we didn't have to spend money on truck wraps and logos and new uniforms and all that stuff. So it's not about spending the money. It's about putting the money to the best use, and then putting words together that make a difference, and buying your media in a way that's going to be infinitely more efficient for you. But we can't stop doing what we're doing now until the other stuff starts working, because brand takes time. You're building trust in a marketplace, and it's lovely to see these lifts early on and fast when they happen, but we don't want to promise you that, because we don't know your market conditions. You might have 6 highly well-branded companies in your marketplace that we have to contend with. Not only do we now have to wait for something to break in the marketplace, but we also have to have the guy that they already trust, the devil they know, let them down. So we're playing a
Well,
contentious game, and that changes every time. So that's what makes it fun.
I'm going to go buy a well drilling company so I can call it Billy Ray's Hole Drilling.
Hey, listen,
And
you call me up. We've got a campaign for you. Yeah.
I want the same actor.
Right. The voice actor was actually the most important part of that whole campaign. When
Yeah.
we took about 3 weeks to do casting calls to find the right guy, because the tonality had to be perfect.
Yeah. I can just picture the guy in my head, like what I think he looks like. And you
Exactly,
picture him
right?
at the scene, right? Like where the azaleas are torn up and all that kind of stuff. Uh, Ryan, this has been a fantastic conversation. If people do want to have a conversation with you, how do they find you online?
Two easiest spots to find me: ryanchute.com. I do have wizardofads.contractors as well for my websites to see what the Wizard of Ads specific does. My main website takes you there. And on socials, I'm at Wizard Ryan Chute.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan. This has been a great and entertaining conversation, and I hope that if someone out there is watching who's involved in the home service in a home service business in any degree, that they'll think a little bit differently about maybe what they're doing and how perhaps they might want to evolve or change the way that they're marketing their business.
I'm happy to give them free consultation on where they're at now and how we might be able to serve them, and how they might be able to just serve themselves and try it on their own.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
So, how can you learn more about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium-sized businesses? Easy. Go over to my blog site, davidcbarnett.com, where you can learn more about me and how I work with my clients. You can learn more about my books and courses that I've prepared for you. You can find out how to subscribe to my email list, the YouTube playlists, and more. There's literally hundreds of hours of content there, all for free, and I'd love for you to be my guest. Special thanks go to Mark Willis at Lake Growth Financial, today's video sponsor. Mark helps people better manage their personal and business finances through the Bank on Yourself insurance strategy. This is something I've done personally, and I've seen others use it successfully for years. Go to newbankingsolution.com to find all the interviews I've done with Mark and learn more about the advantages of these programs. While there, sign up for a free consultation to learn what this solution might look like for you.